Hello, this is Anlineoffline. Welcome back to another casual quick guide to Call of Duty Mobile. For today's video, we'll be covering the MW11. Available at the start as the tutorial pistol, the MW11 is a high-capacity, quote-unquote semi-automatic handgun. It's unmistakably based on the Colt Model 1911, which I'll be referring to for the rest of this video. It is the most recurring weapon in the Call of Duty franchise. The only exceptions are Ghost, Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 4, and the new Modern Warfare 2. Maxim's machine gun was the first of its kind, and would lay the foundation for modern recoil operations. It wouldn't take long for others to scale down the concept for handguns. John Moses Browning would develop his own 1900, with a short recoil tilting barrel and slide, which would be replicated in modern self-loading pistols. Browning's design would be refined and entered into a competition with 5 others for military adoption. The US military specifically wanted a .45 caliber. Their previous .38 Colt revolvers at the time lacked the stopping power required to take down moral rebels that were high on drugs, and were forced to revert back to the earlier Colt single-action army. When pitted against its rival Savage, Browning's design would come out on top and would be adapted in the year 1911. He was first deployed in the search for Pancho Villa, but didn't see major use until the rapid militarization that came with the First World War. In response to its brief debut, the 1911's ergonomics were readjusted for its A1 variant, and would make a name for itself in World War II. It continued to see use in both Korea and Vietnam, but by then it was starting to show its age. It was replaced by the double-action Beretta 92 in 1985 as the M9 for standard infantry. In pursuit of NATO standardization, it was chambered for 9x19 Parabellum. Although, the 1911's tried-and-true design and stopping power still had a home with Special Forces, and in response to US SOCOM's offensive handgun weapon system, Colt was thoroughly bested by Heckler & Koch's Mark 23. The Marines adopted a modernized variant, the M45, which would receive its own A1 upgrade in 2012. But was replaced by the Glock a couple years later. Base damage per shot is high, killing in 3 shots anywhere in the body up close, but this will gradually drop off, and at its final range past 30 meters it will take up to 7 shots to kill. Contrary to its in-game description, Mobile's 1911 is not a true semi-auto, and functions as a slow automatic with a fire rate of 300 rounds per minute. Thus, it has the slowest time to kill of any weapon in the entire game. Limbs deal base damage. The chest and stomach deals 15% extra, and headshots deal 75% extra. It is technically possible to achieve a 2-shot kill up close if you land both headshots. Otherwise, despite its high multiplier, a single headshot will not affect the number of shots to kill, except for its final range, which is far removed from any viability. The 1911 has access to 3 trigger attachments to modify its fire rate. Lightweight trigger increases your fire rate to 360 RPM. Match grade increases it to 330 RPM with a slight buff to your bloom, but hurts your hipfire. I would not recommend heavy duty, as it reduces it to 250 in exchange for improved bloom. In terms of mobility, the 1911 is standard for the pistol class, but because it has access to a short barrel equivalent, it is tied with the revolver for the fastest sprint speed with a gun. Melee weapons are still faster though. Unlike its real-life and mainline counterparts which have 7 to 8 rounds per mag, Mobile has 12 and can be extended to 15 or 20. Only the futuristic variants from COD Online have more rounds per mag. Reloading takes the same time regardless of whether or not you have spare rounds. However, its stated reload cancel times are false. It's almost impossible to reload cancel with an empty mag. Aside from shotguns, the 1911 is tied for having the worst bloom in the entire game. Hipfire spread and flinch are standard for the pistol class. The iron sights are very simple to use, and aside from visual recoil, it has no actual kick. The 1911 and J3 revolver were the only available pistols at launch. Neither were particularly popular, as most people would rather use the SMRS rocket launcher before it was nerfed. Back then, the 1911 did not have a 3-shot consistency, and thus had an even slower time to kill. Unlike most weapons that were hindered by the inclusion of bloom that came with the Gunsmith update, pistols were mostly unaffected and still were accurate. And for the 1911, the MIP Light Flash Guard secretly boosted its firing, and when combined with lightweight trigger, it had a max fire rate of 480 rounds per minute. Was it good? Not necessarily, as its 4-shot time to kill was still slow, and would be overshadowed by the Desert Eagle, which had akimbo. Around March of 2021, the bug fire rate that came with the Flash Guard was fixed and no longer boosted your firing. Also around this time, the bloom on the 1911 was made more noticeable. But later that year, it finally gained the ability to 3-shot up close. Still not fast, but it was an improvement. Mobile's 1911 originally took after its Black Ops 3 iteration, but in earlier 2022, the sound and animations were changed to match its Modern Warfare counterpart. And towards the end of the year, the recoil was removed and it got an audio optimization. Nowadays, the 1911 is an alright pistol to switch to instead of reloading. However, as a standalone weapon, it's only viable in non-objective game modes. It would be fair to say that the LCAR is superior as both a primary and secondary. Understandably, the 1911 could use some changes. For such a slow-firing weapon, its long-range damage is very low. I would like to remove its mid to long-range values and make it a 5-shot across the map. Second, its bloom is bad, and it wouldn't hurt if it was equal to the LCAR. Third, the most requested suggestion is to finally give it akimbo. Using the Deagle stat changes as a template, the Mustang and Sally would drop to a 4-shot kill with a reduced fire rate. And like the Deagle, it secretly does not affect your reload time, aside from removing its ability to reload cancel. If we want to make it more like its other iterations, then it would have to be a true semi-auto. In exchange for a reduced manual fire rate, it would receive increased body multipliers. Ideally, it would also be compatible with the trigger attachments and akimbo, but with the latter, it becomes a 3-shot kill. In the opposite direction, we could bring back its old bugged fire rate as a trigger attachment, which if combined with its newer damage, would make it comparable to the LCAR. Funnily enough, COD Online did have its own machine pistol variant of the 1911 that was based off a modification made by American gangster John Dillinger. But hey, that's just my opinion. This has been a Casual's Quick Guide. Feel free to suggest what weapons you want to see covered next. My name is On, and I'm off.